People, deluded. Bournemouth won, Arsenal won, and both teams take a share of the spoils. Neither team probably wanted to lose this game. On reflection, a point is probably the best result for both teams considering the form and whatnot. But obviously from both teams' perspective, for me anyways, there's probably cases where you probably feel you could have done better or taken all points from this particular game. It's the festive season, and I'm all sure you've enjoyed eating the leftovers which is left today on Boxing Day, and I'm sure you all had a good Christmas. Arsenal doing their best to spoil the festive period with not claiming 3 points, but I'm sure Arsenal fans, you're at this point now where if Arsenal still dictates your mood or dictates what you're going to do, then you're doing it to yourself. Now, the major talking point, the elephant in the room being, it's Arteta's first game in charge. It's probably going to, for me, I'm not, obviously, if I see things before or after, I'll address it, but I'm kind of giving him 5 games before I see anything close to his team taking shape, because right now he hasn't had enough time, especially if he wants to play how we're going off Pep Guardiola with that high intensity sort of stuff. It's going to take a minute. I do feel I might be reaching a bit, but some positives. It looked like there was great emphasis on retaining our shape today, recovering the ball, a bit more application, a bit more fight, looking to go forward in possession. I feel Xhaka and Torreira was superb today, in particular Xhaka. For me, I want to replace him, of course. I believe he's a squad player, but in his 3 years here, he's failed to convince. Obviously, I hope him and Arteta can start a new relationship and he plays well. But on a game-by-game basis, I feel Xhaka in particular was superb. I feel Saka was okay at fullback. Obviously, needs to learn how to cross on a consistent period. I feel Nelson needs to learn a lot and taken a lot from this game and whatnot. But there were some early positives in which I see what Arteta's trying to coach. But we're nowhere near him shaping up into anything. And obviously, our team is currently a mess. In relation to the game, obviously as well, Mesut Ozil came back into the side. Lacazette, who's had to hold the bench recently, came into the side. Martinelli, we heard he's carried a knock, so obviously the Hims, the Bellerins, these lot are not going to be involved in any capacity. Especially for me, I would like to see Bellerin back. Maitland-Niles was okay today, but he definitely had a tough time against Josh King down that left-hand side all game, but yeah, there weren't too many surprises. What I got from the lineup is it's an attacking lineup. Wouldn't necessarily agree with some of the things Arteta's done already based on this game, but it's Arteta. We'll get behind him and support what he wants to do. Like I said, there were some positives from the game to take, but I feel the opening period, it depends on how you look at it, because it was a different clash to which I was expecting. Now, from a Bournemouth perspective, obviously due to their form and their sort of thing that's been going on this season, they might say different. But typically when Arsenal play any side, more so away from home, I was thinking their fans would get on top of us. They kind of be dictating everything. And I feel it weren't quite that game. I feel it was a bit cagey, a bit playgroundy first 5 minutes or so. But then it became a good game for the neutrals. Both teams got in possession and there weren't any quality finishing on the show, especially from an Arsenal perspective, which is a potential big reason as to why we didn't take 3 points. We didn't when we did create shots, we didn't really take advantage of them, and we didn't have no shots on target. And for Arsenal perspective, even though we played well and I think we was knocking the ball around, definitely better than we've seen in recent games. How many saves can you say Ramsdale really made? It's not Lacazette's fault why we lost this game, but Lacazette is a very good player and he had a number of goals where he failed to finish his dinner today. I feel Nelson was okay and it's an encouraging performance in that he's getting in position, but his decision making needs to improve. Obviously there's still a lot of teething problems with our team in which Arteta wants to bring in, and just simply bad habits. But generally first 20 or so minutes, 20-25 minutes, I feel it was even from both teams. I feel both sets of fans would be happy. Like I said, Arsenal, we're a long way away from being the Arsenal we've seen of recent years, or a team that can play attractive football. But we're knocking it down a bit. Bournemouth are actually doing their thing as well and not afraid to get it forward. Leonard to make a good save in the first 4 minutes. I'm sure Leonard to pull off a bad boy save for us, people. So there was a couple of things like this. I feel Ozil and a number of these players, they were getting in a lot of space, and similar to Xhaka, people have made their minds up over Ozil, but I think he did alright today. We're moving on a bit, but he was obviously involved in the goal. I feel he was getting into pockets of space and he was making it count. He set up Lacazette, he should have finished his dinner. Nelson the same. Saka's crossing today was inconsistent, but I like that he offered that outlet. But in the first half, he put in one half decent ball, and I'm thinking, even Mezza's not known for scoring, but attacking mid, Gamble, strikers, where are you? Nelson, where are you? Even a late Terrera and Jack, I'm not looking at you lot to do that, but a little late run from midfield, even a fullback, Maitland-Niles, I'm thinking there's a couple of balls I'm seeing going across. They're not necessarily quality, but no one's gambling, and as much as we talk about football, you have to be able to gamble a bit. But I think we're doing all right. It's obviously our performances have been poor this season, so the base level or the bar is probably at the lowest it's been for Arsenal. So don't take my words literally when I say it's an encouraging performance and things. It's an encouraging performance within the context in that obviously we're supporting Arteta. He's just come in, and obviously we've been atrocious. But the last 2 games, there's been some encouragement, and I feel we did all right. Like I said, us and Bournemouth not taking chances, and the more this goes on, because it's a more comfortable performance, I feel, from an Arsenal perspective. As an Arsenal fan, I'm kind of calm with this. Like, we're looking all right. Normally when it's away from home, I'm thinking, well, Leno had to, but half decent chances, Leno saving left and right, defenders at 6s and 7s. There were elements of this with both teams, but it was really minimised. I feel we really lost this game, for me anyways. Well, I say lost, drop points. From an Arsenal perspective, when we conceded is... Obviously, forgive me if I'm wrong, but Bournemouth conceded, let's just say 5 or 7 or so minutes before the second half. I don't know the specific, before half time. I don't know the specifics. But when they scored, that little period, just before they scored, they were starting to, for all I feel, you'd probably say Arsenal was the slightly better side, for risk of sounding biased, and had the better possession. But I feel Bournemouth tried to take a bit more of control in that aspect and started to, respect us a bit less, and it started to go their way, and we started to have to do a bit of defending, and our goal was very poor. I feel we did well playing out from the back today, even though you could see King, Wilson, all of these players wanted to be extremely aggressive against us, press us high and discourage that and win the ball high up the field, and obviously inject... try and make us not confident, whatever the opposite of confident is. Try and discourage people from playing out from the back, play hot potato sort of thing, and invent their own mistakes and play on our psychological. And that kind of played into our first goal. We were playing and getting out, but I feel we engineered that ourselves. Obviously, Saka and Aubameyang, depending on who you want to say, we lose the ball, and for all the encouragement Arteta could have potentially seen, he's seen a lot, specifically midfield runners again. It's Dan Gosling, he scored against Chelsea, he scored against Arsenal. I don't know his specifics, but I'm sure he doesn't score many goals. And to not score many goals and score against the top 6 is decent, and that's something to tell, when you're probably going to go out later and that, like footballers do in the festive period. Enjoy your night, and it's something to gas up. But we shot ourselves in the foot as much as I feel it was a good segment of play from them. We're not following midfield runners. Dan Gosling makes no mistake. It's 1-0. Crazy though, but I did think we'd win. It sounds dumb, but we'd either win or lose. We'd either win or draw. I did think we'd get something out of the game purely because I think Bournemouth are giving us too much space. I'm somewhat encouraged by how we're playing, and I don't take my words literally. I would not encourage that I'm gassed off this, but we're playing forward. I think we can get goals. It's literally just coming down to simply taking chances, and we did create chances, but the quality of chances weren't there. Lacazette didn't take advantage. Couple of, I feel Ozil was playing good, but it's not the precision or the cutting edge that's needed in the final third to be ruthless was missing. And for as much as we can say Bournemouth were good in that little segment, we let ourselves down, and you don't take your chances, you run the risk of this. And I remember when Arsenal was a consistent top 4 club, and that's actually what we used to say. We'd be dominating games and doing all these things, and teams would, stick the knife in us essentially. We go into half-time a goal down. We need to fix up. I do think it's same old of such. There's a reason we've got 1 win in our last 13, and obviously a lack of clean sheets and all of these sort of things. I did think generally we looked okay defensively by our own standards, and just the backdrop of us, we let ourselves down by giving Bournemouth hope, because should have smelt blood, put goals away. This should have been a consolation package sort of thing, and we failed to do that. I did feel one criticism. I did feel when we went a goal behind, we started to go back into old habits. Players, for at least until the end of the first half, stopped wanting to do certain things. I just felt that, and you can see we've still got psychological issues in regards to that, people. Second half, I felt there was a bit of reaction. I feel Ozil was still doing alright, but he's beginning to fade. And it really... Listen, the Joe Willock substitution, it's not that I have anything against Joe or feel Ozil didn't deserve to get subbed. I'm just looking at it and I feel, what is Joe going to inject in this game? I've got nothing against Joe. He's going to give us energy and things like that. But we need cutting edge, a bit of precision, and I don't feel that's Joe Willock's strong point. Again, it's a tricky one because there's not much on the bench, but I personally feel Pepe should have come on way earlier than he did. I feel Nelson I wouldn't say fortunate to get 90 minutes because he wasn't the worst. Lacazette was poorer than him, but but he could have been subbed, or if anything, move him inside and then make a substitution, or potentially, even though Emil's, you see his lack of experience, his skill set is more driving forward, final ball sort of stuff. Whenever we go forward, we do look like we can make something happen, but we're just not really applying any cutting edge. Like, we did all right. I felt we deserved our equaliser. We did well to keep that alive. I feel Lacazette specifically, because it's actually a poor pass from Aubameyang to Lacazette. That's the only good thing I really saw from Lacazette. No disrespect today. He kept it alive. Ozil's involved, as you would think, because he's been okay. Nelson, I don't know if Nelson technically gets an assist, but he kind of loses the ball. I don't know what actually happens, but it's a poor bit of play. I mean, half decent bit of play, kind of poor if you're by our own standards, really. It falls to Aubameyang, you know, this is why he gets 20 league goals, because he's not necessarily had anything to work with today and not necessarily been involved as much as he potentially could be or should be, but it's 1-1. And things like that. I do feel both teams potentially should be kicking themselves for not getting a second, but considering the form they're in, considering Arteta's just come into the job, really, can I be surprised with a point? It is. I would say it's not I wouldn't necessarily agree with saying drawing's acceptable, but the way we're playing, we can only take a point. I feel we really had the game in our own hands, and we really didn't get potentially 3 points because we didn't fundamentally have that killing edge, that cutting edge in front of goal, really and truly. And we didn't really test Ramsdale for as much as we had possession and had shots. And I think technically our goal was our only shot on target. In fact, I'm lying, because I remember a tame effort towards the end from Joe Willock. Joe should have done better than that, but I mean, you can't blame single individual moments or players for us not getting the 3 points, people. It is what it is. It's a shame because it's Arteta's first game. It would have been lovely to get a win. Obviously, we've got a big game in Chelsea on Sunday, in which the ramifications for both teams is going to be strong, because you can imagine Chelsea are going to give a reaction. They've lost their last 2 games, forgive me if I'm wrong. Obviously, I'm sure they don't want to lose in a London derby, and I'm sure they don't want to lose again. And it would have been nice to take 3 points as some sort of insurance. I feel top 4 is gone, so insurance for what? But just some sort of insurance and things like that. But we can't complain. We go back to the drawing board. It's going to be a long process. Feel there were some positives. Certain things are still there, being switched on at all moments defensively. Gaps in between our fullbacks, midfield runners. For as good as I feel our pivot was, we didn't. The whole team collectively failed for that goal to follow the runners, and this is the finer margins. Obviously, the quality, it was more, I wouldn't say it's more the creation of chances today, because they were there. It's more the quality, the cutting edge, actually putting the ball in the back in the net, that was missing us. Ultimately, the ruthless aspect, really. But it's not going to change overnight. There's a reason we've only got one. Prior to this, we had, 1 win in 13. It's a point. We live to fight another day. Fingers crossed there's a reaction at the Emirates, and it being Arteta's, obviously it won't be his first Premier League game managing Arsenal, but his first real game under the lights, well, depending on kickoff, but at the Emirates. Hopefully there's a reaction, there's a good reception and things. Don't really have anything to say in relation to Arteta's lineup. I don't feel in the context, I feel he picked what he could. There wasn't much he couldn't do. Fair enough, people will question mark starting Lacazette, but I personally don't mind if Lacazette starts. I don't mind if he doesn't. I recognise, for me personally, there's games where, of course, you like both of them playing, but there's games where we don't need them. It looked like a 4-2-3-1 of sorts, with Aubameyang being an inside sort of striker. We'll have to see. Maybe, like I said, with the injuries and stuff, his hand might have been forced with a lot of these, how he went over this game. But based on this, I can't really complain with what he did. Did think Nelson was fortunate to get 90 minutes, because I don't think he was appalling, but I don't think it was going his way, and I thought Pepe could have come on sooner. Can't really criticise the bringing on Joe, and I'm not doing that, but in terms of the skill set and what we needed, beyond Joe offering energy, I didn't understand that sub. Like, Emil had a so-so game in his last one, and I'm not saying it should have been Joe or him or blasting Arteta. I'm saying that in that game, it looked like we needed a bit more cutting edge on the final ball and stuff. And as much as I like Joe, I think that's more Emil's sort of skill set. So maybe he could have come on. I'm not criticising Arteta's things and whatnot, I'm fully behind him right now to do his thing. But just as looking as a fan of face value, that's what I think. But in relation to the game, there's not really much more to say, people. So I'm going to keep it moving and cut, man. Thank you for watching. Obviously, it's sad that we drew, but it's the festive period. And to be honest, for me in the festive period, football, obviously I would have liked to win and I want Arsenal to get back top four, but it's not really important. Like, I love football, you lot know me, but it's not really important. This is a time to, you know, be with family and think about things that are important. And as we move from Boxing Day and Christmas, think about goals for next year. Both for me personally, my private life and professional private life, and obviously with YouTube. But it is what it is, man. It is what it is. You're hoping we get out this festive period with 3 points of sorts, because we've dropped 2 today. Listen, we can always hope on a Chelsea victory. We've seen us win at the Emirates against Chelsea before. Hopefully that's the case. Then on New Year's Day, you've obviously got Manchester United, who have had inconsistent results too. You never know how it's going to go against the top 6. We've got a crucial, tough period. And obviously, new manager, he needs to do his thing and whatnot. It's a troubled period for the club at this moment, but it's what it is, people. On that note, I'm going to cut, man. People, it's been a pleasure. DG, God bless. Enjoy the rest of your festive period. Or like me, if you keep seeing me, look over there. I'm ready to watch United on Amazon, people. Thank you for watching as usual. DG.